Hi everybody, welcome to my new video. In this video I talk about the accuracy of the Libre 2 sensor. The FreeStyle Libre 2 is one of the most used continuous glucose monitors around the world. A major question for its users is how accurate it is. Does the Libre 2 give the same values as a blood finger prick test would give you? This question actually can be answered really well. For this, you need to look at the so-called MART value. MART stands for mean absolute relative difference. It is actually a simple comparison of the values taken from blood tests and from the, in this case, Libre 2 glucose sensor. The lower the MART value, the better. Ideally, a MART value would be 0%. That would be there is absolutely no difference from the values that you get from a blood finger prick test and from your CGM. CGM stands for continuous glucose monitor. The best CGMs on the market right now are around 8%, so they have a MART value of around 8%, and that's actually pretty good. And the Libre 2 is not far off from that. The manufacturer, Abbott, reports a MART value for the Libre 2 of 9.2% for adults. Say, let's round that to 9%, so that's not far off from, say, the Dexcom G7 and the Libre 2 sensor, which currently report the best values. That is the lowest MART values. Now, even so, you might wonder a couple of things about this. First of all, you might wonder, okay, so this MART value that they report is great, but what about my Libre 2? So some people report that, like they get values that are quite a bit off from what they expect based on blood glucose values. So that's one thing. And the other is that you can actually calculate your own MART at home. And I did that in the last 2 weeks. So I took a Libre 2 sensor, I used it, and I checked what my MART value is. And that's what I actually wanted to talk about. So in total, I took 27 blood tests myself with my blood glucose meter, and then I just I wrote it down. And after the 2 weeks, I took my Libre 2 measures from the LibreView website. Now, if you have a FreeStyle Libre, you might know that the values are automatically uploaded to the Abbott LibreView website, and that's quite practical. So you can log in there, you can get all sorts of reports, and you can download a spreadsheet with all the values. The only thing is, and I noticed that, is that the spreadsheet gives you one value for every 15 minutes, so you get only 4 values per hour, whereas the actual app on your phone gives you a new value every minute. So it seems that they don't store all that information on their website, maybe just to save space. I don't know actually what the reason is, but that meant that in my experiment there could be an up to 15-minute delay between my blood test and the test that I had on the phone. And in order to deal with that, I actually used my statistics software, and I calculated I extrapolated the values between those two 15 minutes intervals, so that I would have an average, so that's just a simple extrapolation. Not ideal, but look, this was just a home test, and I just wanted to get a sense of what's going on. I should also say that when Abbott reports this, I think the way they really do this is that instead of taking finger prick tests, I suspect that they take actually proper blood samples, and that they send the blood to the laboratory so that they can be sure that the blood measures are really accurately calculated. And you should know that when you have a finger prick test at home, a blood test, you are also not 100% sure whether it's accurate. And by the way, you can calibrate your own blood glucose meter, but the point is that it might actually be, so for example in my experiment, that my Libre 2 was 100% correct in theory, and that my blood finger pricks were not correct. So what it's really about here is that the MART value that I report here shows the difference between my Libre 2 that I used and my blood glucose tests that I did, but I cannot know whether any of these two was closer to the truth or not. So that is always a little bit an issue. Anyway, so you might wonder, okay, so what value did I find? Well, I found a MART value of 12%. And I think actually that is pretty close to the 9% reported by Abbott. And I think it's also pretty good. The most important thing from my experiment was that the decisions that I would have made based on the blood values were no different than the decisions I would have made, or that I actually made, of course, based on the CGM values. And that is a key thing to look at. I think it becomes a different story if you say, well, I would make a different decision. So I actually wonder, well, what do you think about this yourself? Have you ever had a situation where one of the two gave you such a different value that you said, well, I need to make a different decision? And of course, that can happen. But what I should say and what I would advise is to also make sure that you occasionally calibrate your blood glucose meter. You can get a so-called control liquid from the companies typically, and then you can test whether your glucose strips are reasonably accurate. So anyway, so what did you think of my home experiment? Soon I will actually make a video on how you can calculate this yourself. It's relatively easy to do. I will upload a spreadsheet that you can then download and which you can use for measuring your MART at home, and I will give some more tips on how to do that and how that works. I think it is an interesting thing to do. At the very least, it might give you some more confidence or understanding of how these things actually work, and if you have more confidence in how it works, you might just feel better about managing your diabetes. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel.